When I was on my way, my brother called me and he was like, what does being a unicorn mean? Does it mean she has $1 billion in a bank account?
I wish. So, a unicorn club, it's an adage that's used for companies that reach $1 billion valuation. So, the valuation of the company is $1 billion.
We read about Digital India. How real is it on the ground, in the rural areas?
So, we've had a few catalysts that have changed the way digitization happened. Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, Mobile Trinity.
The jam?
Jam Trinity.
Okay.
Right? It is phenomenal.
People tend to say कि अरे इंडिया में बिजनेस करने जा रहे हो, इंडिया में बिजनेस करने के लिए तो it's very tough और पैसे खिलाने पड़ते हैं, red tape, bureaucracy. Again, break down the reality of the statement.
Somebody said 35 फॉर्म भरने पड़ते हैं. Somebody said 37 भरने पड़ते हैं. वो दो नहीं भरोगे, so you will not get that approval and then you will get stuck there. One day.
Really?
Done. India की growth आएगी the more entrepreneurs we have. I continue to be not fond of the phrase of developing country.
Why so?
I'm as good, if not better than the citizens of a lot of other countries. जब तुम मुझे बोलो कि you're developing country, कब तक developing country? Now we are there.
Welcome to the NIJ podcast with Ananya, where we dive into inspiring journeys of remarkable individuals who've made their mark in transforming the Indian landscape. So, in today's episode, we have the pleasure of introducing you to Radhika Ghai, a trailblazing entrepreneur who co-founded ShopClues, which many of us have heard about, and she's had the privilege of being the first woman to enter India's Unicorn Club. Recognized as one of Forbes' Women to Watch and featured on Business Today's list of most powerful women in business, her story serves as an inspiration to aspiring entrepreneurs, especially women, who strive to make their mark in the business world. So, let us delve deeper into Radhika's incredible journey and listen into invaluable insights she has to offer on the India story. Let's get started. Thank you so much for making the time today.
Ananya, it's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited about doing this. I've had the super privilege, I'd say, of being a bystander and a participant of India's journey over the last 12 to 13 years. And I'm incredibly proud of what we as a country have been able to achieve and look forward to talking to you about it.
Great. So I have a lot of questions coming your way then. So let us start with the basics. When I introduced you, I said you are the first woman who entered the Unicorn Club in India. Tell me, what does Unicorn Club mean? Because when I was on my way, my brother called me and he was like, what does being a unicorn mean? Does it mean she has $1 billion in a bank account?
I wish. So, a unicorn club, it's an adage that's used for companies that reach $1 billion valuation. So the valuation of the company is $1 billion. And if the company has, let's say, 60 investors and 40 stockholders separately, then that $1 billion is divided amongst all of them.
Okay.
Having said that, the effort that it takes to build a company from scratch to $1 billion and more, as we've seen in our ecosystem, it's pretty remarkable. So the pride in building out ShopClues to $1 billion company, a unicorn, mythical creature or not, is immense for sure.
Cool. Okay. So that's helpful. Now coming to breaking down the second piece of the introduction. You're the first woman unicorn from India. Do you like being slotted as that? Because I was reading up an article where you weren't very comfortable as being slotted as a woman entrepreneur. And I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm very comfortable in my gender identity. I'm very proud of everything I've been able to achieve as a woman. But it's been a journey for me. Okay. It's been a complete journey for me. I remember when we were building out ShopClues, there were very few women in the startup ecosystem. I must have pitched to, I don't know, 400, 500 VCs.
Wow.
And probably 2-3 women out of them. So that was one aspect
Were you
of
like
the
pitching
ecosystem.
to 5 people
Pretty
every day?
much. 5 people every day. Nahi, uske baad bhi. It was
I
just,
need to do my
it's a
maths.
lot of people there. So barely 2 to 3 women, right? Even amongst the founders, very, very few of us. Ginti ke, you could count them on your fingers. And in spite of that, I remember there was a very large conference in Delhi, and they wanted me to come in and speak on a panel. And I agreed. They said, we want you to talk about women entrepreneurship. It's a topic that's close to my heart, and I'm happy to kind of talk about it. I said yes. Then I looked at the entire agenda, and I realized that सुबह जो main panel था, there were a bunch of men there. I wasn't on that panel. It was a manel, and I'm on a panel that's a breakout.
Like a side session?
Side session. Galat. Ekdam galat. So it is just, I believe that's wrong. I believe that is something that we have to stop. Yep. And that's also when I put my foot down. I said, I remember talking to all the journalists and saying, I'm an entrepreneur first, a woman later, women entrepreneur second, entrepreneur. But that thought process has evolved for me.
Okay.
So over the last 4 to 5 years, I've also met a lot of young girls, young women who've become entrepreneurs, who've always come and told me that they've been inspired by my journey. And the fact is that I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't at 18 or 20. If you told me that you'll be the first woman to build out a $1 billion company in India, I'd be like, I don't know, what are you smoking, kind of a thing. So, so completely. So I am grateful for my privilege. I'm grateful that I have been able to be an inspiration to a lot of young women, and I hope to continue to be able to do that. Today, I wear the badge very proudly. I have matured as well, I have to say, and I'm happy to talk to either 4 women or 100 or 300 women. Because I think those voices do travel far, and they're meant for a specific audience.
Right. Talking of your bachpan, I got to know that you're a product of Kendriya Vidyalaya. So, Kenvid, so to speak.
Yes. Very, very, very proud product of KV, please. Yes. Yeah. I have studied in multiple of them.
Multiple. All right. Do you think at the time when you were seeking out job opportunities, do you think studying at a Kendriya Vidyalaya, did that put you in an equal footing with other job seekers around that same time?
I believe that all parents, me included and my father included, want the best for their children.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They do the best that is available to them, as did my parents. The second thing I truly believe is that schooling is what you make out of it. You could be in the best school possible and still not learn the way you need to learn. Yeah. Or you could be in the worst school possible and still come out like a shining star. And you see that with a lot of our leaders, right? We don't know what schools they went to, but they're these shining stars in our country already. Having said that, KV, the exposure it gave me to different teachers, and I learned as much from my peers as I learned from my teachers.
Okay, the community.
The community. It's a community. Until today, whenever I have incoming classes of management trainees, management associates, interns, we talk about, what schools they went to, and there's always that one odd kid who went to a KV, and there's this instant bonding, so that this is it. I've had at least a couple of teachers at KV who changed my life completely, who taught me that I could do pretty much whatever I wanted to do, and I'm very grateful for that. So, very proud of what KV is. और second चीज़ ये भी है कि आप worldwide, if you look at it, for children with parents who have transferable jobs, there are very few such school systems. So we've done well with KVs there.
Wow. I mean, I was that child whose father had a transferable job, so I know the woes. Yeah. Moving on to college, you have also seen that generation. In fact, a lot of my uncles, I've seen that, went to the IITs, Sarkari colleges, and then ticket katvaya, and then, to US. Brain drain. That's where it is.
Yes.
But in your case, I mean, of course, you went to the Silicon Valley, had your first startup conceptualized there, and now have a made in India startup. Do you think it's it's a circle coming, what do you call it?
Is it a full circle
moment?
Yes. Is it a full circle moment? I think, we're talking about two different generations here. And for the same individual, multiple generations as well. In the late 90s, when we were graduating from college, graduating with our masters, the conversation that was happening was, where are the best prospects for us? And I think for some of us who thought that it's going to be easier in the US because there's a much wider opportunity there, ticket katvaya aur chale gaye, as you said that, right? But then something changed in India. The story changed in India. The opportunity increased in India. And it became at par with the rest of the world.
Right.
Till date, when I go and talk to investors, and I'm in New York to meet a bunch of investors, and the conversation that I have with them is that the opportunity in India is, we've not even scratched the surfaces yet.
Right. In terms of the potential.
Huge opportunity, right? Whether you look at our GDP, it's going to go from 2.5 trillion, it's going to go to 8 trillion, 7 trillion over the next decade. Yep. And while we spent the last decade bringing India online, and I'm giving it to you from my own perspective, right? ShopClues was built for Bharat. We spent a lot of time bringing India online. The next decade is about consumers in India coming of age. Consumers of India looking for Indian brands. Right. Consumers of India buying better. Consumers of India buying premium products. We're no longer that... I continue to be not fond of the phrase of developing country.
Okay. Why so?
Just... I'm as good, if not better, than the citizens of a lot of other countries. Yeah. And I'm incredibly proud of that as well, right? Yeah. So, जब तुम मुझे बोलो कि you're a developing country, कब तक developing country? Now we are there, you know?
Right, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think that is much clearer thought process. And I look at a lot of kids who've graduated from school over the last 10 years, who've graduated from college. The opportunities here are immense. They're incredible.
Right.
And they don't feel the same need to go out of the country to prove themselves.
What do you, you have 2 children.
I have 2 children.
Do they want to stay back here? Will they...
Yeah. So both the boys were born in the US, and one of them is studying there. He's doing his undergrad there, and he wants to come back.
Right.
He wants to be in the startup ecosystem in India.
In India. Wow. Okay. All right.
And it is, and I can tell you that 15 years ago, 20 years ago, if you spoke to any of the children who went there to do their undergrad, they did not intend to come back.
Absolutely.
That was not part of the story.
Yeah. And parents wanted to send their children for undergrads
absolutely.
And find a job in the US and settle or anywhere else in the West.
And today if you look at Harsh from Dream 11 and many, many more, right? They've built incredible businesses in India while quickly conceptualizing the business while doing their undergrad in the US, coming back and building it out.
Yeah.
Indian economy is of age. Indian consumer is of age, and the biggest potential, super young country. Yes. 700 million log under the age of 34.
I don't think not very many people recognize how young we are as a nation.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of numbers, yeah. So you spoke about conceptualizing startups. Yes. You conceptualize ShopClues in the Silicon Valley. But instead of targeting metros like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, you chose to target tier 2, tier 3 cities. Why was that the case? And tell us a little more about ShopClues. I mean, you entered the e-commerce platform when There were not very many players in India.
No. There were a few legacy players like India Times and Rediff, and then there was Flipkart, which looked more like a mall. India is all about its potential. You know, whether we're looking at online, whether we're looking at offline, all of that, right? As we already talked about, we're a very young country. We're a very young country in terms of the age of the consumer, but we're also a very young country in terms of the potential that is there. There is huge potential. बड़े होके क्या बनेंगे कुछ भी बन सकते हैं, you know, when you look at a 4-year-old,
not only a doctor or an engineer,
no, you know, when
or
you
an
look
IAS.
at exactly when you look at a 4-year-old, you also talk to them about, you know, क्या astronaut बनूंगा, you know, कुछ भी बन सकते हो, right? That is where we are right now, and I think that's what we identified in the country as well. India was buying from these small bazaars. मतलब हम लोग malls तो जा नहीं रहे थे, हम बाज़ार से खरीद रहे थे. अभी भी हम सेक्टर मार्केट से खरीदते हैं. Our Mangal bazaars, Shani bazaars are not just places where you go shop, but they are a major socializing venue as well. You go with your neighbor, you go to the sabzi mandi. Those are all inherent part of our culture as well. Our goal at ShopClues was to bring the bazaars of India online.
Okay.
For the consumers of Bharat in a way, you know, tier 2, tier 3 India.
Right.
And we brought the supply and the demand together. And I'm making it sound super simple, but it was going and sitting outside the house of the traders, outside the house, outside retail stores. हर जूते की फोटो ली है, हर जूता क्या साइज में अवेलेबल है वो टाइप किया है, और फिर उसको अपलोड किया है.
That's the kind of market research.
That's the kind of, not market research, that's the kind of work that had to be done.
Yeah.
That's how supply had to be built out.
Oh, like building through those chains.
Yes, that had to be done. Those chains had to break completely, right? And all this to build out a company where 750, 7.5 lakh merchants were selling on the platform.
Oh, wow.
And
This was which year?
This was 2016. 16, 17. But also note that India is a country of these small shop owners, small traders, small brands, right? So these were the people we were targeting. Digitizing the Indian retail ecosystem. I think if you ask me what one of my biggest accomplishments in life is, of course, building out ShopClues, very proud of that. But I think playing such an integral and such a critical role in digitizing the entire Indian retail landscape. Indian retail landscape is not the malls that we see.
Right.
Indian retail landscape is the छोटी-छोटी दुकानें जिनसे लोगों के घर चलते हैं.
Absolutely. You spoke about digitizing the landscape. Were you nervous, going out, targeting rural audiences through any platform, right? Because of course we listen to and we read about Digital India.
Yeah.
How real is it on the ground in the rural areas?
So we've had a few catalysts that have changed the way, that have completely changed the way digitization happens, and credit where it's due. The government has done a phenomenal job of it, right? Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, Mobile Trinity.
The Jam
Trinity.
Okay.
Right? It is phenomenal. The UPI, data becoming cheaper, 3G, 4G. By themselves, they look like very individual things that happened. But together, they were a perfect storm. Perfect storm. Would we have been able to build out something if all of this didn't exist?
Like, the chemicals in a laboratory.
Bilkul. These are Aadhaar, Jan Dhan, mobile, UPI, data becoming more reasonable. I think it's a phenomenal, perfect storm that happened. Were we expecting consumers from tier 2, tier 3 to come and shop from us? Yes, because all of this
Pieces were
coming together and kicking and screaming or otherwise, we did drag the country into the digital age, right? Today and India is a country that leapfrogs trends anyways, right? When we were talking to investors or just amongst ourselves in the early last decade, 11, 12, 13, it was all about कि India में तो, our purchasing power doesn't enable every household to have a laptop or a computer. But we didn't need that.
Because of the smartphones.
Because of the smartphones.
Yeah. Right.
I'll tell you another trend that I find super fascinating. When we started ShopClues, less than 5% of our consumers were women.
Okay.
By 17, 18, 50% of our consumers were women, which is where we should be. 50% of our population is women, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And the mobile phone changed everything.
You must have had back-end data, right, at the time, whether it's purchasing fashion products, technology. Tell us more about whether women indeed are making consumer choices on their own, or does the husband or the boyfriend has a tab on the
I
purse?
think women have always had a very clear mandate or very clear mind of their own. They know what they want. They know what they want to buy. The actual action or the transaction was being done by the man of the house. Because the credit card was in his name, or he had easier access to pay online, or he'd get his laptop home, or he would place an order from work, etc., etc.
Account unke naam pe hai.
Account unke naam pe hai. I've heard everything, right? All of this. But the products that were being purchased, decision maker was definitely the woman. Definitely the woman. And now you see the decision maker and the action taker. They are both women.
Right. So it's now aligned.
And now it's aligned.
So moving on, your first startup was conceptualized in the Silicon Valley, the sunny Silicon Valley. And the second one is a made in India product, which is Kindlife. And we'll talk more about it shortly. But how was that transition like? Because एक होता है ना, in common parlance, I don't know if it's an overplayed stereotype or what, but people tend to say कि अरे इंडिया में बिजनेस करने जा रहे हो, इंडिया में बिजनेस करने के लिए तो it's very tough और पैसे खिलाने पड़ते हैं, red tape, bureaucracy. Again, break down the reality of this statement. How was your experience like?
So जब हमने US में set up की थी company, one of the obvious reasons was we lived there, right? That was home for us at that time. So we said, okay, एक दिन में set up हो गए. We were like, कितना smooth है, देखो इंडिया में तो हो ही नहीं पाएगा, क्योंकि हम भी तो अटके हुए थे ना किसी दूसरी दुनिया में.
Right.
इंडिया में तो हो नहीं पाएगा. Second time around, I knew I wanted an India company, and my mind was very, very clear. I have seen what the country has done for me and what I have done for the country, and have a very clear sense of how we want to build out Kindlife.
Yeah.
But उस time भी यही question था. Somebody said 35 form भरने पड़ते हैं. Somebody said 37 भरने पड़ते हैं.
I know those two extra forms.
And तो वो दो नहीं भरोगे, so you will not get that approval, and then you will get stuck there. One day.
Really?
Done. Literally. The company was done. We were ready to go, ready to roll. Took us probably another week to get some of the Startup India certifications, all of that.
This was which
Very,
year?
very quick. This is 2021.
21. One day? Wow.
Literally.
Okay. You spoke about Startup India, and of course, we keep reading about Startup India. We understand that it's to do with promoting startups in India. But like in 2 or 3 bullet points, explain to us how has Startup India really changed the landscape?
I'll start with having been in the room when Startup India was launched. Right? This was a Saturday evening.
Okay.
And Prime Minister Modi at that time said that Saturday evening hai, 6 baje hai, and the fact that you're all here, sitting here, differentiates the entrepreneurs from people who work for others.
Okay.
And I thought he has a pulse on who we are.
Right.
एक simple statement था.
Right.
It's stuck in my brain. So every time I have to go out of my way and do something, I'm like, That's it.
That's the
what
reference,
works. That's the reference that works. Now, having said that, Niti Aayog, then DPIIT, METI, all of these together have given us the kind of resources that was difficult to have earlier, right? We didn't know कहाँ कौन सा फॉर्म भरना है, किसके पास जाना है. The fact that we had somebody like Amitabh Kant there talking to startups, talking the startup language, and being the easy, not having two absolute ends of the spectrum where there's the government and there is the founder sitting and there is nobody to translate in between.
Right, the bridge.
Bridge in between. But we didn't need a bridge because the government put forward people like Amitabh Kant, people who understand the space, and there is an easy conversation that happens.
Right.
There are very, very few countries that do that.
Okay.
So hats off to the Indian government for that, right? And making FDI more easily available, making it easier for women entrepreneurs. I've served on the board there with Startup India, and I've seen the kind of effort that goes in to finding women entrepreneurs, giving them a platform to come in and pitch their business plans and get funding, whether that is from Startup India, making loans more easily available, making grants more easily available. Bangalore has incubators. There are government funded incubators. SIDBI is churning out grants to a lot of incubators that work for women, that build early investors for women businesses. ये सब कहाँ था?
True.
We have a WhatsApp group of women founders.
Okay.
It used to be 3 of us. It used to be Upasna, Taku from Mobi Quick, me, and a couple of others, right? We had met at a conference, I want to say 2013-14, and we said, how do we stay in touch? Okay, let's create a WhatsApp group. Today, that WhatsApp group has over 800 women in it.
Wow.
And I don't know, and that's a limited group because that kind of goes, how many people you can get on board kind of a thing. But kitne women entrepreneurs hai?
You have your data point there.
Yes. So look at it more as a directional multiplier of how entrepreneurship has become front and center.
Right.
Let me give you a couple more anecdotes, Ananya. When we started ShopClues, the first girl we hired, her father came to the office because he said, ये startup क्या होता है?
अच्छा.
मैं अपने बच्चे को startup में नहीं जाने दे सकता क्योंकि ये कहाँ जाएगी, क्या करेगी, government job लेना चाहिए. It is कैसे होगा? We had a couple of engineers who were marriageable age and शादी नहीं हो रही थी because startup में काम करता है, पता startup क्या है, पता नहीं क्या है. So उनके जो future in-laws would come in और वो बाहर ShopClues के बाहर खड़े हैं. He's come to the office, so he knows that. And they would take pictures of the building.
कि ये building है, office है.
Real है. तो वो आगे पूछते हैं, अच्छा यहाँ पे सच्ची में ये काम करते हैं कि नहीं करते हैं? And I remember walking in and somebody was checking. So I said, no, he works here and he's doing really well. Why don't you come up to my office? So the employee was just so happy because की engagement हो गई 2 दिन बाद. So he came, he got mithai and all, and he was like, आपने उनसे बात की तो उन्होंने फिर शादी के लिए हाँ कर दिया. वो गर्लफ्रेंड थी ना, तो थोड़ा सा और धक्का चाहिए था. So
right.
All people that we hire, within the first week, we'll have a parents' day.
Okay. For their socialization.
So the parents come, we sit with them, we tell them what we are building, we explain the vision of how we plan to change the country, change the consumers. And most of them are sold. There are times when parents will keep, then they come back and they check. Because सबको insecurity होती है ना, मेरा बच्चा कहीं जा रहा है, सही जगह जा रहा है कि नहीं जा रहा है, right? These are parents who spent so much money trying to get their kids go to quota, study for 2 years. There's of course an economic price to that, but there's a huge emotional price as well, right?
Absolutely.
Putting your child in a hostel that's away from you at such a critical age because you want your child to be successful. And then that same engineer graduates and joins a startup. What is happening? What the fluff is going on, right? So That has changed.
Yes.
अभी चेंज हो गया ना.
अरे the other day my dad was like कि ये तुम क्या 9 to 5 जॉब करती हो, तुम्हें ना स्टार्टअप डालना चाहिए. मैंने कहा पापा not everybody can do that. And he was like नहीं देखो आजकल सब स्टार्टअप डाल रहे हैं. Those are the people who are making it big. And that has changed in my own family.
बिल्कुल, so true.
And I'm a person who's written UPSC also a couple of times.
Oh, there you go.
And now he's like तुम्हें स्टार्टअप डाल देना चाहिए. Like this is a true story.
पर ऐसा ही होता है, right? How do you build the culture of a country, a community, a company, an ecosystem? It's about the stories you tell, right? It's about the heroes you hold high. It's about the actions you take.
Absolutely.
And the Modi government has done phenomenally on all three of them, on the startup side as well. They've awarded us. They've rewarded us. They've also given us platforms to tell our stories.
Right.
Right? And then they've taken the appropriate actions, right? By creating Startup India, by creating Stand Up India, by giving us the ability to match Skill India with Startup India. All of these are great initiatives for the country and also to create entrepreneurs out of India.
Right.
India ki growth aayegi, the more entrepreneurs we have. I am a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
And today I see, I have an engineer, he's getting married soon, and the question his in-laws asked him was कि तुम्हारे पास ESOPs कितने हैं?
अच्छा.
तो time बदल गया है भाई, time बदल गया है.
Yeah. Talking of Prime Minister Modi, very simple question. Do you think his own leadership, his own personal charisma, has that played a role in improving and increasing investor confidence?
Definitely. I think what happens is that for most investors to come into a country, there are a couple of things that always worry them, right? One is political instability. The second one is even if they have a leader, but that leader is not progressive. And we know that with a few countries around us, right? Those leaders are more focused on building out their own country. And then in our case, we have an extremely decisive leader who has the mandate, the majority of the country's population standing behind him. And that has changed the perception of how we are perceived outside. Even today, I'll tell you.
And you travel around the world.
I travel around the world. Last time Modi was in the US, I landed in New York exactly, I think 2 days after that. And I walked in, I hold my India passport and I give it to the immigration guy. And he says, "Oh, you're from India. Your guy is here." I said, "Yeah, I know my guy is here." So he goes, "Oh, may the 4th be with you." Because Prime Minister Modi had gone to Madison and said, "May the 4th be with you." So I said, "Okay, yay, we have Star Wars reference right next to Prime Minister Modi. What more do we need?" So he talks the language and he takes actions in the same way. He's able to appeal to a wider range of people. So proud of that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, talking about the India story,
Yes.
what's the big picture? I mean, in your mind, what does the immediate India story look like? And what do you think are going to be the biggest drivers for the GDP? And of course, now there are more holistic indicators to understand the growth and development of the country. But what's going to drive this?
Increasing per capita GDP. I'll give you a very biased number. If you look worldwide, or even if you look at states within India, where women labor participation is more, the per capita GDP is always higher.
Okay.
That is a very, very important indicator. In our country, we've done a lot for that. I think a little bit more push on that is needed over the next decade. And I see a lot of the programs come up from whether that's the finance ministry, whether that's the women development ministry, to kind of push this forward. So this is going to be one of the key things for us. The second one is the industry as well, right? Whether that is production, whether that is technology. The conversations that we are having about, I built a company that was based out of the US, now I've built a company that's in India. And I'm telling you, I'm promising you, I'm not an anomaly. I'm not an outlier. There are a lot of us who want to build companies in India and who are doing it at this point.
Right.
That in itself will contribute hugely to the GDP as well, right? Then the third one, an indicator, I don't know how many, apart from economists, how many people land up tracking that, is our purchase parity number, right? We used to be at 4.5, 5x, now we're at 3.5x.
Right.
And that number is a critical number as well.
You spoke about purchasing power parity. Explain that to me. Educate me.
So a PPV of 4x means that I need to make 4x in India to have the same lifestyle that I would have in the US if I made the same amount of money.
Right. Right.
That number continues to drop.
Okay.
And it's soon, I think now it is at a 3.5, 3.25, 3.3. And that number, the more it drops, we have similar lifestyles, whether we lived in the most developed country in the world, and I've told you my passion for that word already, or we live in a country like India, which is growing on a day-to-day basis.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Talking about setting up startups in India, I have a question on GEM portal.
Yes.
How does that work? Some of our viewers would also be aspiring entrepreneurs. I mean, as you said, it's so normalized and it's actually now a fad. Fad's a negative word, but yes, it's fashionable to,
It is
launch
huge,
a startup.
I don't even, I disagree with the word fashionable also, Ananya. It is a huge privilege and it is a huge opportunity. Opportunity, that is the word. For all of us to be our own bosses.
Yes.
And it is possible. You know, people like me, people like Sachin Bansal, people like Kunal Behel, we've kind of proven that it's possible.
Right.
And here opportunity hai, when I look at all the kids who come out of IITs, kids come out of any engineering school, kids come out of any college. Please take it and run with it.
Right.
It is an amazing time to be in India.
Yes.
For sure. Let's talk about GEM, right? I always feel a little bit personally motivated by GEM because at Kindlife, we did all the cataloging. We got the contract to do all the cataloging for GEM, right? The largest e-commerce portal in India is GEM.
The largest e-commerce portal is GEM.
Yes.
Okay.
The fact that there is transparent procurement that happens for the government through GEM is phenomenal. Any procurement, whether that is for any of the ministries, any of the states, whether that's for a defense portal, has to be done through GEM. And you know, we talked about India mein company banane mein red tapeism hai ki nahi. Similarly, we have this whole concept of, you know, will an Indian government portal really be able to compete, or will the Indian government be able to build out something in technology that's that large with everything else that's involved? GEM is a great example of that.
Right. Right.
Huge example there.
Yeah. So for an aspiring entrepreneur, what should they know about GEM portal?
For an aspiring entrepreneur who is building out a brand that can be consumed by anybody in the government, that could be food, that could be anything in the latest drone technology, please go list yourself there. And so दो ends of the spectrum बता दिए हैं. If you want the government as your customer, which you should, because it is a huge opportunity, best place to get listed is GEM.
Wow.
Whether it is your HP tablet, HP laptop we are talking about, whether it is an iPad, all of that has to be listed. It is transparent procurement, and it is a great opportunity for a lot of our D2C founders as well to be able to list their products there.
Coming to your current startup,
Yes.
Kindlife. When I was reading about it, I realized that, you know, it promotes a lot of organic, chemical-free products. And, you know, I was reminded that when I was growing up, तो नानी को मैं हमेशा देखती थी मलाई लगाते हुए, and my दादी would also tell me, नीम लगाओ, हल्दी लगाओ. And we grew up in a phase where a lot of international chemical brands came into picture for oily skin, for dry skin, ye lagao, wo lagao. You know, the entire skincare industry at that time.
Yes.
was different. And I'm just using one example of skincare. And do you think it's now back to the basics, back to...
I think the awareness has gone up a lot, right? Well-being has become central to our lives. COVID was definitely a catalyst for it. COVID से पहले मुझे गिलोय नहीं पता था. And I don't think हम में से कितने लोगों को गिलोय पता था. पर सबके फ्रिज में गिलोय था. था, बिल्कुल था. And, Ministry of Ayush, right? Ayurveda. A lot of people, we talk about Ayurveda being a very ancient science, but I talk about it as being the youngest category that we have.
The youngest category we
Yes.
have. Okay.
Because the way it has been consumed has been very different. Aushadhi. There are no big brands that have built out from that. Ayurveda is for me. It's for you. It's for the newborn baby.
Right.
It's for the 80-year-old Geriatrician. So it is across the spectrum for all of us. And now the brands that are coming out are more easily consumable.
Right.
So I call it an absolutely new category that's going to lead to that GDP growth as well. It'll play a very important role in that.
Right.
Right. And I also believe that for us, thoughtful consumption has become important. Maslow's hierarchy of need hota hai, where at the bottom is food.
Roti, kapda, makan.
Roti, kapda, makan. ऊपर है self-actualization. हम self-actualization तक नहीं पहुंचे हैं, पर हम वहाँ ज़रूर पहुंच गए हैं where we have the ability to think about consuming better products for ourselves.
Right, right.
Right? As a country, we are focused on Yoga Day. Right? As a country, we're focused on Ayurveda. As a country, we're talking about eating better, working out, exercising. And when I look at the youngsters today, my own son at 19, I can tell you I had none of those focus areas that I see him have today. So that is a shift that is happening fundamentally in the youth of today. So Kindlife is the best way to think about Kindlife is that we are making better living easy for you.
Okay.
So if you want to buy products that are toxin free, और हमारी लाइफ में बहुत टॉक्सिन्स आ गए हैं, हमें पता ही नहीं चला कैसे धीरे धीरे आते गए. We had conversations around Fair and Lovely. So what crap.
Right. Yeah. Growing up, that used to be the only cream available in the market.
Yeah.
But
Fair and Lovely, exactly.
Fair and Lovely is replaced by all the natural.
Yeah, and
Ayurvedic
it
products.
is. The story is that when you go out of the country, you realize, the Indian beauty is so exotic. And we've shown that, right? पता नहीं कितने Miss Universe निकाली हमने बहुत. All are beautiful women, whether that's Aishwarya Rai, Sushmita Sen, and multiple of them. I think that it's time for India to take center stage, take Ayurveda to the world, take yoga to the world. Well-being from India, it's time for well-being from India to go out, and Kindlife is going to lead the charge on that.
Wow. Great. Best of luck on that.
Thank you so much.
A personal question. Can you be a good mother and a good entrepreneur at the same time? Or a good, working woman?
It's a loaded question, really, Ananya. And you're a new mom yourself.
Yes.
I'll tell you that lots of people will keep asking you that question, but I also promise you your husband will never be asked that question. Because the assumption is that he can be a good father and a good businessman at the same time.
Right.
Right. Similarly, I think for me, I'm a great mom. I'm very proud of the human beings that my children are. They're empathetic, they're kind, they're sharp, they're motivated, and I'm proud of what they have become. I don't know how much of it is me, how much of it is them naturally, but I believe that my job was to instill values in them, and I've done a good job of that. And I am a good business person as well.
Right. That we all know.
I'm proud of that as well. Is it possible for me to be both? Yes, I am both. I've done it. If I've done it, can somebody else do it? 100% can do it. Please know that I am not
An outlier.
an outlier special in any way or form. So I believe it's definitely possible. There are some sacrifices here and there that you have to make. You have lesser of a social life, but that's how it is for everything.
Right, right.
When you want something enough and you have your priorities clear, then you fit everything in. And I always think of that fable where एक jar में पहले बड़े rocks डाल दो. You want to fit like a bunch of rocks, you want to fit some pebbles, you want to fit some bajri and some water in a rock. If you put the water first, then you can't put water first and bajri, उसके बाद बाकी सब कैसे आएगा? वो तो layer बैठ जाएगा ना. So सबसे पहले you will put in the big rocks. For me, the big rocks are my children and my work.
Right. That's
Everything else fits in later.
Yeah.
So it's just about sequencing.
Okay. Just about sequencing, prioritization. Yep. What do they think of India? I mean, of course, they were born in the US and now they are in and out of India. Are they proud of their Indian roots?
So we'd go to the US every summer once in a while, and we'd go back to the Bay Area, and that's where home was at this point, and it was phenomenal because we'd go there and then we'd come back 1.5-2 mahine mein back to India, back to Gurgaon, which is home in India for us. And my older one, once we landed and we got out, he's like, US is so boring.
अच्छा.
सब वैसे का वैसा ही रहता है. हम 3 साल बाद भी जाते हैं तो वैसा ही होता है. India, even if I come back in 1.5 years, it's changed. So the change is visible, right?
Right.
It's visible. They see what's going on. Even now, they're very happy to come back home at any time. And they see the potential of the country as well. And I can tell you that there is no one more selfish than the youth, right? They think about themselves, right? 18, 19 is and that's how
it should be.
That's how it is, right? That's how humans are made.
Yeah.
So if an 18 to 20-year-old child is also recognizing the potential, it's huge.
Right.
It's huge.
Yeah. You spoke about Gurgaon, and I do know that Kindlife is headquartered at Gurgaon. But say to a lot of entrepreneurs who are either aspiring or are already working on their startups, what do you have to say about people who want to launch startups? Is it necessary to migrate to the big towns?
Bilkul bhi
Bangalore,
nahi.
Delhi, Gurgaon?
Oh my God, I'm so glad you're asking me this question. Bilkul bhi nahi.
Banaras mein baith ke I can have a...
Bilkul banaiye. And if you haven't been to Banaras in the last 2 to 3 years, please also go. The city has changed completely.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, there you go. So that, and you look at Jaipur. Cars 24 is from Jaipur. They're a unicorn. Plus, we started our India office for ShopClues in Baroda. We landed up in Gurgaon somehow or the other. But the fact is that smaller towns and cities in India have as much potential, if not more, to do startups.
Okay.
And a lot of that change has also happened with the digitization aspect. It's a full circle. I'm coming back to the same topic as well, right? First, digitization was really important for the consumer because the consumer came online. Now, for building the companies as well, it is possible to build a company with having your own employees spread across places as well.
Right.
So a lot of work collaboration tools have made that possible. And you get the best talent in smaller towns and cities. You get motivated talent. I think I'm such a huge proponent of entrepreneurship. It doesn't matter what you think is holding you back. It's wrong. That's it. If you think your chota shahar is holding you back, if you think the fact that you're a non-tech person is holding you back, if you think you didn't go to college is holding you back, if you think that you don't have so much time and you have children and a family to look after, if that's holding you back, I can tell you these are all self-imposed limitations.
These barriers are really a myth. Yeah.
They're true, but they're self-imposed. There are ways around.
Which you need to navigate and find out.
Yes, absolutely.
Talking about navigating some of these barriers, with ShopClues, you got it right the first time, and now you have another startup. I'm sure people and the expectations from you as an entrepreneur who already entered the Unicorn Club with the first one, have you already gotten it? I mean, do you know all the tricks of the trade, or every startup is a new journey in itself?
It's such a tough question, Ananya. It's such a tough one. I think every startup is a journey of itself. I do think that you have benefits of doing it a second time around. My own goal to myself, or the mandate that I give myself, is that I can never make the same mistake twice.
Okay.
But I'm sure there are other mistakes that I will make. I will get up. I will fall. I will get up. I'll do it all over again.
Okay.
Resilience, grit. I think, I have this beautiful thing on my desk that one of my teammates had sketched out for me. Because I'd keep saying that to my team, and I didn't realize how often I said it till she made a very pretty painting and gave it to me. I say, just show up.
Okay.
कई बार ऐसा लगता है कि आज नहीं हो पाएगा यार, आज तो मतलब इतना टफ है, the newspaper has ripped you apart, you're in every headline of every newspaper, I just can't get out of the house today. That day, more important than others, get out and just show up.
That's so powerful.
They are 3 words that have changed my own life. When I feel that I can't do it all over again, then I do it.
You just take the next step.
I just take the next step. But yeah.
So my next question is that, of course, India as a market is only going to open up more and more as we go. It's not going to be closed. So, of course, there will be global competition, and without taking names, there are global giants, and especially when we talk about e-retail and, e-commerce. So, to aspiring or current entrepreneurs who may be watching this podcast, a question on behalf of them. Are they fighting a losing battle?
बिल्कुल भी नहीं. बिल्कुल भी नहीं. And I will, and this is coming from someone who's been in the trenches, जैसे war में कहते हैं ना, in the forefront, the infantry with the gun there kind of a thing. That technology is the biggest level playing field, is the biggest leveler that is there. Technology is what will create a level playing field. Let me answer this question slightly differently, right? Think of it as this way, that ये सारे malls खुल गए. जो छोटे दुकानदार थे, were they worried that they will lose their livelihood? People will stop coming to them and they'll start going to the mall and not come to them. Probably a little bit.
Yeah, there was resentment.
There was resentment. There was a little bit of this thing. They use technology to their benefit by listing on platforms like ShopClues, by listing on platforms like Snapdeal, and ultimately listing on platforms like Amazon as well, right? And they created an expanded business for them that they would not have possibly created if they had continued growing the traditional way that they planned to grow.
Right.
Technology, biggest leveler there. Similarly, not every battle has to be fought with resources.
Okay. Yeah.
It is not every battle has to be fought with resources. There is, हमारे पास इंडिया में एक बहुत बड़ा हथियार है. उसको कहते हैं जुगाड़.
Okay. No, I agree, because there are books around.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a massive weapon. Let's use that to be able to figure it out. अगर हम डर गए with a lot of these, whether that's an Amazon, Google, Facebook, क्या ही होगा?
Right.
They can't do everything. And also know that they are behemoths. So for them to take one step takes so long.
Right.
We are agile. Might be small, but we're super agile. Hathi chinti.
Right.
Anything is possible.
Example. Yeah.
So, Hathi Chinti dekh lo, technology use karo, and it is possible for sure. So, there'll be some victories that'll come out of it. There'll be some failures that'll be there. But do we have a level playing field? Possibly not. But technology is the biggest leveler.
Right.
And that is playing a very critical role today.
Do you think government has a role to play here?
I want to say yes, because I'm an India company. I want protection. I don't want any of those outsiders to come in at all and do that. But I think the job that the government also has to do is to make it a level playing field. Give me as much an opportunity to succeed as a person coming from outside has to succeed as well.
Right, right.
And I think the way I look at it is that, I'll give you an example from a different industry in this again. When we talk about women, right, we say that why do women need reservations? Why do they need extra seats at certain institutes? Why do we have to do, etc., etc. अगर हम इन सब की हमें ज़रूरत ही नहीं होती अगर 50% of all MPs, 50% of all seats were women already. पर नहीं है ना.
Right.
तो चाहिए ना थोड़ी सी help.
Yes, yes.
So that's the same thing. Is there no help needed? No. We do need a certain support. If I'm incorporated in India and fighting with someone who is coming from the US and we're just a small part of their business, yes, I expect the government to give me a slight push, which the government does land up doing.
Right, right. Cool.
You know, there is a IAMAI is a leading industry body for our industry, for the startup ecosystem industry. And it was started by some of our stalwarts. And over time, it got taken over as the chairman, the vice chairman was Google, Facebook, all of these big companies kind of came in and they'd spend money in elections, etc. This year, there was a concerted effort and all the major roles, chairman, everything, is being held by Indian companies.
Wow.
Indian startups.
Indian startups. Yeah. Wow.
Because Google यहाँ आता है.
हाँ.
हमें कहता है कि भाई अब आप इतने पैसे दें if you want to list your app, then you have a certain, if you have the product, you have to pay a certain part of it. So we don't want to do that. It's unfair.
Right, right, right.
And how do you change? And then they lobby on behalf of the industry body. The industry stands for us, right? We are the industry. We created the industry. So it's a phenomenal opportunity and a phenomenal action that was taken by the Indian internet startup ecosystem, and very proud of what they've been able to do.
Wow. So the next question to you is, with Kindlife, you're targeting very, very young audiences. Tell me about, what do you think of the intersection between youth as consumers and markets? What does the trend look like?
We spoke about GDP growth, right? India में 700 million Gen Zillennials. No, Gen Zillennials is kind of not an accurate term. So a lot of the economic pundits might attack us on that, or consumer pundits. But Gen Z and millennials put together, under the age of 34, 700 million. A lot of people fail to see how young of a country we are. We are a super young country. The average age in my office, I have about 55, 60 odd people in the office, is 24.
Wow.
Okay. It truly is. And it wasn't significantly different at ShopClues as well. And that was a team, we were talking about 2,500 plus people.
Right.
So we're a very young country. We're a young country of digital natives.
Of digital natives.
Please, we should not forget that. Right? For as long as this consumer base or this audience remembers, they've had a phone.
Right.
They've had all these channels to watch on television.
That's been the baseline.
They've seen progress. They are a generation that believes that a lot is possible and they can do anything.
Right.
For any country to have that behind them, to have that tailwind behind them is massive, there's massive potential in that. Now, when you look at Japan, when you look at America, aging audiences, boomers coming of age, you hear that. We have a highly educated, better educated, digitally native. 700 million log.
That's huge.
So think what we can do.
Yeah. And what the kind of potential that this entails.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I mean, concluding with the last question. Of course, there's a famous book, 3 Mistakes of My Life. So, for those of us who want to launch a startup or are already running one, three mistakes that you think they should not commit. I mean, driving from your own experience.
Okay, that's a बहुत लंबी list है वैसे पर I think the first one is don't doubt yourself. We are our own worst enemies. We feel कि हम नहीं कर पाएंगे. So don't doubt yourself at all. I think that is the first and the most important one. The second one is again on a very similar line. Don't listen to the naysayers around you.
लोग क्या कहेंगे?
लोग क्या कहेंगे? लोगों का काम है कहना. बहुत मुसीबत है लाइफ में एकदम. It doesn't matter whether you are successful, whether you're not successful, you've built a company, you failed, you've rebuilt, you're a mom, you don't have children, you're married, you're not married. लोग कुछ ना कुछ तो कहेंगे ही कहेंगे.
काम है कहना.
Yeah. So, you literally need one of those... I visualize myself having these bubbles around my ears where any negative thought comes and just bounces off. That's it. You can never build a career as a creator. You'll never be able to do it. Instagram में क्या बनाओगे अपना career? बन गए भाई, heroes बन गए उसमें भी. So, believe in yourself, right? Don't doubt yourself. Don't listen to naysayers around you. And the third one is learn from history.
Learn from history.
I feel that we underestimate experience, history, the wisdom that resides in people ahead of us. And I think that is and I probably had the arrogance of the youth, So you'll sometimes underestimate that. Yes. That is a huge treasure trove of wisdom.
Thank you so much, Radhika. This was wonderful.
It was lovely being here. Thank you so much, Ananya. And a big shout out to everybody behind the camera as well. Thank you guys for being patient.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And best of luck for your Air India flight.
Yay!
Tonight.
Yes, I get there very quickly.
Tasty. Air India में हमेशा होता है ना कि खाना
अच्छा होता है बिल्कुल.
Great. Thank you so much. And there you have it, folks. We've come to the end of another incredible episode with an inspiring woman entrepreneur. Remember to like, share and subscribe to our channel. And as always, thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and do not forget to pursue your dreams. Until next time.